A very good morning and welcome to newspaper review segment on New Day. As usual, this is where we look at what the papers are saying. And today, Tuesday, the 13th of August 2024, we are going to look at 5 papers. Number 1 is the Punch newspaper with the banner headline, Federal Government Governors Reach 3-month Agreement on Local Government Allocations. With a rider here, government worried about 1990 era when local governments couldn't pay teachers, workers' salaries. And this is coming from another official report. And then we have protest, inflation top as councils of state meet today. And lastly, we have Tinubu unveils 30 hybrid CNG buses.
Our next paper is Vanguard. Let's move on to Vanguard newspaper with this banner headline. Distress as harsh economic forces shut down of over 50 firms. With these riders, 80% order in low capacity utilization. Over 100,000 employees thrown into job market. Labour begs federal government to intervene. Tinubu commissions 30 hybrid CGN buses. 2024 WAEC credit passes in English, Maths lower than 2023 figure. And lastly, Shuaibu resumes as Edo Deputy Governor.
The Guardian newspaper is what we shall be looking at next, and it has this story. National Broadband Plan. Federal government may miss 2025 target as 136 million Nigerians lack internet access. We also have Tinubu roll out locally made CNG buses to ease transportation. And lastly, NYSC invalidates certificates of IOI Unical graduates.
Our next paper is Daily Trust. Flood kills 7 in Jigawa and Kebbi with these riders. Submerged road, farmland, display 100 in Bauchi and Yobe. Tinubu commissions CGN buses, so NHOS. Zenith Bank short for 281.38 billion capital for expansion. Police trace Sudan crisis mastermind to Labour House. The date of that story in page 24 of Daily Trust newspaper. And lastly, gunmen killed 12 in Taraba, Zamfara, Niger, and Kaduna states.
Sport is the next paper, and of course, the last that we have today. Say her name, applauded for Wakama after Best Olympics Coach Award. And we have the story now. Bruna Boy launches football academy from music to football. Atalanta ready for Madrid. Lukman wants to go to Atalanta, so we'll have to wait and see how that works out. And then Osimhen risks Napoli fine after nightclub brawl. From one crisis to the other. Arsenal target Coman. It's another story that we have here. Barca reject United £42.8 million the young offer. And Red City keen on Rodrigo. Will he leave Real Madrid for Manchester City? Is another talk for another day altogether. So, as usual, let's move straight to our analysis segment. And in the house, we have 2 fantastic gentlemen. Of course, one is our regular guest, and we're having another for the first time. And in the studio, we have Abdullah Umar Angibi, is our regular guest. We say good morning to you.
Good morning, Suman. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
And the second gentleman here is Dr. Ila Obadea. He is the chairman of ASU. And of course, he is also a lecturer with the Isa Mustafa Polytechnic here in LAFIA. For them to do justice to issues that we have for our own discussion. So, I say a very good morning to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Doc.
Welcome.
All right, straight, let's move to one of the talking points that we have here, which has to do with the local government autonomy. We're told, if you go to the Punch newspaper, we're told that federal government and governors reach 3-month agreement on local government allocations. And it's no longer news for us to know that the Supreme Court has given its judgment. And of course, states that haven't conducted or don't have sitting local government administrators or elected local government administrators are supposed to put up preparations and then get the new officials on board within 3 months, so that allocation will go straight. Otherwise, some states will not be benefiting from federal allocation. Now, we are looking at how local government autonomy will deepen our own democracy in Nigeria. And let me begin with Dr. your perspective as far as this issue is concerned, and then we'll also move to Abdullahi Umar Angiwu to have your thought as far as this issue of local government autonomy and how this can deepen our democracy in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Ma. I think this development is long awaited for, because this is a country that runs a federal structure, federal system of government. If you look at Section 277 of our Constitution, recognizes that Nigeria is a federal state, where you have the federal government there at the top, you have the state government and the local government. And the whole essence to ensure that there is a holistic provision of governance, to the country at all levels. So it is difficult for the federal government to reach out to the people at the grassroots, just as it will be difficult for the people at the grassroots to reach out to the government at the top. So what happens is that the federal system of government tries to decentralize governmental powers so that there will be even administration and provision of governance to citizens. So you have the federal government at the top there, then you have the state government, and then you have the local government. So long before now, it has been a quasi sort of operation where you have a local government, fused into the state government, and they operate as a sort of a joint organ, where the local government is completely dependent on the state government for its operation. But with the latest development of the court judgment, simply tells us that the Constitution now takes prime place in how the country is governed. So it is to say that the local government now has full autonomy to operate as an arm of government, just as the state government operates and just as the federal government operates. And if you look at it very critically, you discover the bulk of the masses of the citizens of this country reside or dwell at the local level. So for me, it is a revolution. It's a good development, because you are simply now going to take government more closer to the people, because now the local government chairman will have more resources to their coffers. They have more powers, to disseminate governance to the people. And of course, they will have no fusion, so to say, as it used to be between the state and them. And so, to me, this is a huge development as far as governance is concerned, because if we have a law that guides us, then that law should be strictly followed. And the judgment has even gone ahead to say that moving forward, local government elections and councillors will now have 4 years, to spend in office, just as governors and presidents spend 4 years at the office. And that is the position of the law. Before now, it is not so. Some state government, we give 3 years to local government, and as the case must be. But this has now provided a template, a situation where we now run a country that is under law. We now run a country where Section 277 is practically enforced now. We now run a country where the local government chairman and councillors have their constitutional entitlement to spend 4 years in office, and that will, of course, give them, the needed time, to usher out the programs they have. Because most times I've always wondered how somebody will just spend 3 years and will reach the bulk of the masses of the people, that are the rural. If there's anybody that will spend 3 years, it should be the government at the top, because they have less people to deal with.
All right, let's move straight to Abdullah Umar Angibi. We have fears now coming from government, and let me say state governors, that probably this will take us to 1990s era where local government are found it very difficult to pay teachers and workers' salaries. And of course, you will agree with me that before this judgment, local government were more or less like a department for state governors. Let me have your thought on that.
Well, thank you, Sma. Well, my perspective is that, in the first place, given what you have read out, that state governments and the federal have come into some kind of agreement that for 3 months on the allocation issue. My concern is, how does that sit well with the definition or the dictates of the Constitution, based on what Doc is saying now, that we should abide by the Constitution and that. So the point here is that it is a good development that the financial autonomy has been extended to the local government by way of the law or the position of the Supreme Court. But it is also very necessary that the elections too are modified in such a way that the governors do not take advantage of the situation, as it were. But it is not exactly Uhuru yet, given that now the same democratic structure is beginning to create some kind of avenue for usurping the law too. You understand? So basically, there's still time to go, but let us not forget that before 1999, there was some level of autonomy, financial autonomy, that during the military era that the local governments were enjoying, and people were seeing practical developmental efforts by the local governments in projects, primary health care, even in agriculture and the rest.
Okay, let me go back to that. You did mention that with this new development, the local government team will have more resources and more powers. Don't you think that these resources and powers will eat corruption in the local government level?
It depends on how you look at it. Not giving them the full resources before now itself is corruption. But now that the law has said this is the way to go, that is the way to go. Why should you suspect that they are going to be corrupt? The same process that has installed the president, the same process that has installed the state governor, is the same process that is going to install them. So these representatives, local government chairmen, councillors, are going to be voted by Nigerians. So it is the people that will elect them, and the people will elect the people that will represent them. So the fear for corruption, although corruption is a human factor, but at this instance, like my colleague here rightly mentioned, before now, we have seen that local government resources are utilized to the benefit of the people. You see local government chairmen embarking on road constructions, building healthcare facilities, providing good learning environment for students at primary and secondary schools level, and so on and so forth. So there is already an experience on ground, and so we have the confidence that once these resources are made available, these people will take advantage of the opportunity given to them to provide the needed development. You know why? Because they are very close to the people. The life in the community is more or less homogeneous. They know who is this chairman, they know their house, they know their parents, they know their wives, they know their children, and so they will be more accountable to the people. How is it possible for an ordinary man, say in Agaragu community here, know who President Tinubu is? How is he going to reach to him? But if the local government chairman of Obi resides in Agaragu today, they can go to his house in the morning and say, you know what, you have not done ABC. There's a need for you to do ABC. And if they cannot reach him, they will reach the wife. They cannot reach the wife, they will reach the parent. They cannot reach the parent, they will reach his church or his mosque. And so there is this sort of close monitoring of the way and manner governance is provided. So to me, corruption is there, but there's also a checking mechanism on how these resources will be managed.
Okay.
All right. Let me come to Abdullahi Umarangibi. What happens to, in our case now, what happens to local government? Give me your perspective as far as what happens to development areas, because this is an internal creation. So what happens to it in a situation where you have some development areas have more workforce than even the existing local government, which is recognized by the Constitution?
Well, I think certainly there would be some kind of realignment from within. Well, mind you, as far as the Constitution is concerned, it recognizes only 774 local governments. And so on the basis of that, if internally, whether between the state government and the local government chairman and their body, whether it is Algon or Nolgi, they decide to create some kind of arrangement that doesn't put the chairman in danger too. Because like you would be following that, the federal government is also issuing out a statement that any local government that chairman misappropriate the allocation coming to him, the EFCC will watch. So it will be defined on the basis of the structure that is already on ground, whether it meets the definition of the Constitution or what the Constitution recognizes as the 774 local governments. And you would see much of the powers going back to the local government chairman. Of course, whether they will exist as overseers and the other structure is something that certainly when it begins to operate practically, we can begin to see the impact.
Okay, away from the local government autonomy, there is this headline here: flood kills 7 in Jigawa and Kebbi. With this banner headline, with this submerged road, farmland displays 100 in Bauchi and Yubi. With this development, how do you think government need to come in to ensure that this flooding did not affect people the more?
Yeah, well, we have been talking about this flood issue for a long time now. And it's just like going around repetitively on the matter. But the point is, there are measures the government need to take in the areas.
Go ahead.
In the areas of getting the people out of the areas that are danger prone, building up structures like we've talked about, dredging the rivers, giving people adequate information, like of course it has been happening, that this is going to be affecting the people. But it requires government to come in, remove people in the areas where this issue is most prone, providing what do you call it, in terms of those, what do you call them? No, those agencies that come in to give them relief materials.
Okay,
NEMA, SEMA, and that. They need to, it is not just going to be there waiting for crisis to happen, then they come in and do that, but they should become more scientific and see where they can curb the problem before it happens, being proactive than reactive, so to speak.
Doug, don't you think that even as citizens we have the responsibility to keep our environment, maybe from what will lead or what we term as causes of flooding? Yeah. Is it all about government? Don't we have that responsibility?
Government on one side, citizens on the other side. I remember the flood we have been talking about, just as my colleague mentioned, has been a phenomenon that has threatened human existence in this part of the world. This is not the first time we are experiencing flood in Nigeria. Even here in the state, it has been phenomenal. And so when you have a problem that has been persistent, it is only ordinary that human wisdom tells you to take drastic measures on how to counter that in the future. Here we run as a government, and the government is bound by law, to provide protection, security to its citizens. And so on the part of government, flood has been almost a social problem in this part of the world. It's a recurring decimal. It has claimed lives, properties, it has damaged environment. And so there is every reason for government in this part of the world to begin to see how the future is protected. And I am worried that having dealt with that of 2023, by 2024, that the rains are becoming more phenomenal. We are still having issues of flood, claiming life, damaging properties here and there. I think the government in this part of the world needs to be more proactive on measures to tame and curb, flood. That she can do by providing needed orientation on the implications and effect of flood, and then two, by identifying prone areas across the country, and then provide measures on how safety is provided to those areas and to the people in that area, even if it means relocating them completely. Is the function of the government. Section 14 sub 2 provides that government exists for the people, for the security and welfare of the people. So it is the responsibility of the government in the first instance to ensure that, since flood is a persistent phenomenon, there's every reason to copy it in the future. There's every reason to put strong measures so that its impact, its damaging impact, is not repeated in the future.
All right, hold it there because of our time. We need to move to one critical area that we need some level of discussion, especially from you. Only yesterday, the WAEC released its results, and we have over 1.6 candidates that sat for WAEC. Results was out, and from Punch newspaper, we're told that 215,267 results were withheld for malpractices, and this coming from WAEC. And then largely some of the attribution for deceased results were as a result of parents, guardians, teachers aiding and abetting malpractices in examination. And this is one, let me say this is your constituency. Take us into that. How are you people managing to address this issue? Why is it that teachers are also involved? Because we're in a situation where during WAEC, do not confirm this is just what, but we all know that you see teachers writing exams for students even on board.
Examination malpractice is almost now a national culture in our education sector, because emphasis has now been placed on results, not on knowledge. And so every parent wants 5 A's for their work so that they can go to the university. And so they are able to do anything to ensure that that 5 A's or 5 credits is produced at the end of the day. And then two, the kind of education run in this part of the world is also a challenge, where people that give instructions in schools are now aiding and abetting, because it's another avenue to survive. We talked about corruption before. It's deep-seated. The corruption that run in the education sector is a corruption of examination malpractice, aiding and abetting that, and then devaluation of learning process. So you have it like that now. And again, it explains further the way and manner government has also treated education as an institution in this part of the world. The thing is, education is key to development anywhere in the world. And research has shown that no country in the world has ever developed beyond her education infrastructure, her education institution. So we ask, is the government even responsible to the institution of education in Nigeria? Because we have global standard. UNESCO provides that every nation of the world should reserve 26% of our budgetary allocation to the education sector. Do we have that in Nigeria? What we have is 6.5 of our budget, a budget of 27.8 trillion naira. You know, Nigeria is allocating just 6.5% of that budget. That is within the range of 1.5 trillion. A budget of 27.8. So it means to say that we don't even value education in this part of the world. So the learning environment will never be there. The quality of knowledge to give to students will never be there. And so every person in the sector will scramble to survive because the teachers are not even catered well for. And then the value system in this part of the world has fast degenerated because the emphasis now is on result and not on knowledge. Every parent wants 5 credits, so they do everything possible to ensure that their children have 5 credits. And we in the academics are the ones receiving it. Because at the end of the day, a child will present 6 A's, 7 A's, 8 A's before you. And when you try to do a critical evaluation of 8 A's and the older of 8 A's, you discover a huge gap between what 8 A's represent and what the older of 8 A's is saying. It tells you that I have brought papers, but I have got no knowledge. And it tells you the kind of rot in the sector. And it starts from up. When you have not prioritized education, when nations of the world are beginning to think that the way forward is to educate the citizens. And we give you, very closer examples, even in Africa. Why is the magic, have you thought about the magic going on in Rwanda? A one-town country, in 1994, Rwanda of all people. Today, Rwanda is trending as far as education is going. Have you asked why? Because when you check the budgetary allocation of Rwanda to education, it's 15.6.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for that submission. Let me go to Mr. Angibe. Doc said education is the key to the development of every society. I'm looking at the headline here, 2024 where credit passes in English maths lower than 2023 figure. And this brings about the creation of miracle centers in so many places in Nigeria. So with this development, where lies the future of the younger generation in terms of education?
Well, just like what the doc is saying, our emphasis in this country is more on the certificate, not the quality of learning or teachings that we have. And a lot has actually corrupted the system from the side of the policy makers, administrators, down to the schools, whereby the system is corrupted. You have a number of unqualified teaching personnel. That there's also the aspect that most of these classrooms are flooded, are choked with a large number of students that the teachers themselves cannot give them the kind of learning that they require because of the size. If you are having a lecturer or a teacher having to take close to 500 to 1,000 students in a class, how can he identify individuals from within the class with specific needs and all that? So it is a very difficult scenario indeed that, just like you're saying, adding to the budget of in the sector is one, but most of the time, even the little amount that is there, diverted to some kind of projects, constructions and all that within the system, rather than getting the learning materials, focusing on the individual. So it's a very difficult situation indeed.
All right, because of our, we are totally out of time, and our directors have given us signal for us to wrap up, but maybe just in 30 seconds for each of you, the way forward.
Yeah. Is it in the education
in
sector?
the education sector?
Well, for us to actually come back to the drawing board and see what devise other means in vocational education, the one that people will use their hands to come up with things. We should shift away from getting certificates just to get white-collar jobs and all that, and have people get the education that they will be self-sustaining and they will use it more practically.
Right, Doc.
Yes, you don't use stones or trees or some spirit to develop a society. You use human beings. And at this age of the world, you use trained human minds. So there is no magic in development other than the provision of quality education. And when we want to do this, we don't prophesy about it. Government has to be deliberate about it, and that will imply increasing the budgetary allocation of education and ensuring that that is applied down the line. And then two, ensure that we consume the kind of facilities we have in Nigeria by ourselves. There is a spate of education tourism, sons of the rulers, the people in power flying out for educational attainment outside the shores of the country. If this continues, this problem will remain. But the day the sons, the children of the president, governors, ministers start schooling here in Nigeria, that day will mark the revolution of the education sector, because anywhere in the world, you must consume what you produce before you develop.
All right. Thank you very much, and we did appreciate your input as far as these issues are concerned. And we have to call it a quick day. We hope that those saddled with the responsibility must have heard this, and let's have a change in this country. And well, as individuals, we need to personalize the change. Let's just go ahead and do that. On behalf of my colleague in the House, Manas.
Yeah, good morning, and our guest, we sincerely thank you for coming to the show.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my name is Smart. Just see you next time.